Good morning and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this morning. Not only does Celtic have fans all around the world, they're making headlines all around the world this morning. Also, obviously with the sale of Leila Bada to America, that's making headlines over in America, and we're also making headlines back down in Korea, and the Korean Junjang Daily. Yes, paper that is down in South Korea. They're talking about Celtic to appeal the Young red card. The Celtic look to lodge an appeal against the decision of Yang's card and Sunday's Premiership clash against the Heart of Midlothian during the Sunday's league game at Tynecastle Park in Edinburgh, Scotland. Yang initially received a yellow card for catching Alex Cochrane with a high boot. Referee Don Robertson, however, reversed the call after VAR reviewed and gave Yang a straight red card in the 16th minute. That red was Yang's first since joining Celtic last year. With a man down, they went on to lose 2-0. Celtic made a statement on Tuesday afternoon via their social media accounts and their website, confirming that they will appeal the decision. The club have also written to the Scottish Football Association with some serious concerns regarding the use of VAR and the decision made within the match. Celtic manager Brendan Rodgers also expressed his frustration with the referee's call. And then he went on to say, after joining Celtic ahead of the 23-24 season from the K-League, Gangwon FC, Yang struggled in the early days of the campaign, despite playing regular. The 21-year-old scored his first team goal back in November, but he failed to display an impressive performance afterwards. Anyway, we move on from that. Norwich City have been talking about Adam Idah. They've been talking about Adam Idah, and they're surprised by his impact at Celtic. Adam's been a fantastic signing for Celtic. He scored 5 goals already. He did miss that penalty at the weekend, but Norwich City are surprised at Adam's impact. The 22-year-old striker has obviously left the Championship to come to Celtic to get some game time, and the loan move seemed good for him. Everybody was slating. It's a third choice. He's not good. What are we doing? Why are we not going for Van Hooijdonk? And etc., etc., etc. But they're actually surprised the way that he started. Given the chance, he's given Celtic a different outlook. He's given Celtics a different striker to play up front, big tall guy rather than Kyogo running behind, bit of a target man and somebody that can score from headers. And even though that he scored 2 penalties, he had one dodgy one on him, didn't he? He had a really dodgy one on him, didn't he? It was terrible. Let's face facts. It was an absolutely terrible penalty that he took. But his confidence continues to be sky high, seemingly. And with just 9 games left, and 2 Glasgow derbies. Is that right? Is it right that we do that? I mean, it makes it exciting for towards the end of the season. But if you watched the live last night, I am an advocate of making the league bigger. Tell me what you think in the comments. I think that making the league bigger would actually make the league stronger. People will say, but you don't want the likes of Dunfermline and Falkirk with their crappy 3-sided stadium and teams like that in the league. I think it would actually make it better and take away this nonsense that we have in Scottish football of playing each other 4 times, because it's only done for one reason and one reason only, and that is for Glasgow derbies. And let's face it, that is it. That's the only reason that Sky have the deal that they do with us. I did also suggest on the live last night, would you pay for an SPL TV? Now that we have the internet and such, and the way that the costs are reducing for TV companies, believe it or not, in the way that we can do things. And I mean, just look at the way that social media has changed over the years. When SPFL last look at having a dedicated TV channel, the costs were too much. They were far too much, and they wouldn't make enough money. So they went with the deal with Sky. Would you pay, say, 1999 or 1967, as some Celtic fans were suggesting last night, or 1988? Would you pay that? Or would you pay 2012? Just saying. Would you pay anything to watch Scottish football? There's a lot of people in Scotland who don't even bother watching Scottish football. There's a lot of people who don't turn up to games at the SPL level. When you look at Hearts, are sitting comfortable in third position. It doesn't look like they're going to get knocked off third position. And they still couldn't fill their ground at the weekend. The fact that their fans maybe thought they were going to get absolutely humped by Celtic, but it didn't happen. So the fans that didn't turn up, Celtic still get that reduced allocation. It's terrible. We need to make some kind of change in Scottish football. Anyway, and talking about changing situations is obviously VAR. Graham Spears and Stephen McGowan discussed the incidents on VAR on Graham Spears' Patreon. Yes, you've got to sign in and you want to log and you want to pay Graham Spears to listen to his content these days. It just shows how the mighty fall sometimes. McGowan expressed his growing concern with the football community that VAR, rather than clarifying decisions, is complicating the sport and detracting from its enjoyment. It is definitely that. VAR in Scotland takes far too long for them to make decisions. And when you look at the penalty decision that was awarded against Celtic, you're just wanting continuity throughout the refereeing fraternity. There's been several posts being put up about similar situations where the ball has been headed onto the back of a player from other teams around the country, and there's been no penalty given, no penalty whatsoever. Even though Tomoki Awata had no idea where the ball was, and the ball struck the back of his arm, even though his arm wasn't above his shoulder level. It was down nearer the sort of side of him. It was sticking out from his body, but he'd been pushed in the back. And when you look at the total run of play, was it a deliberate handball? Could he have got his arm out the way? That has to be the suggestions. Could he have got his arm out the way of the ball? He didn't even know where the ball was, for goodness sake, and it hit him on the back of the arm. But then it was suggested that it was a penalty, and that was it. So they were talking about it, and they said it's a bit depressing, to be honest with you. He says this has all it's become very tribal within Scottish football, and it shouldn't be tribal. Everyone should be agreeing now that VAR is a pig in a poke. A pig in a poke. Pig in a poke. It's a barrel of shit. It's a barrel of shit run by the Masonic Lodge. And when you look at the only full-time, there's only 2 full-time VAR people in Scotland, and one of them is called Dallas. Yes, the son of Dallas, and not the program Dallas. And kids from the 90s, the 2000s won't get that. Older Celtic fans will get it, but they did go on to say for every club and for every set of fans, VAR is becoming an expensive failing. It's a fantastically expensive failing. The fact that Celtic pay more than anyone else, even pay more than Rangers, which I think is bizarre. People have no idea what the tariff is for VAR and why the VAR gets involved. I thought VAR was never meant to get involved with anything further up the pitch. Yet it decided to shout it back and whoa, that was a bit in the post, mate. That was a bit in the post. You need to send them off for that. You need to send them off. You can make the case for the red and say he's endangering the opponent, but it's not a clear-cut mistake by the ref, as far as I'm concerned. VAR shouldn't be anywhere near it. There wasn't a mistake. There wasn't a mistake by the ref. The ref went, that's a yellow card. He didn't see it at the time as being dangerous play. He says, right, that was. He didn't put his foot up. He didn't see the player coming, for starters, and the player didn't put his head down the way. Was it dangerous play? Well, you could say the studs are up. Yes, it's a sending off, but it wasn't called the first time by the referee, and this is what the problem is now being. The fact that VAR is interfering after the decision is made, so it's overruling the referee. So they're now going to overrule the referee. There's no use having the referee on the pitch. We'll just have a couple of guys at the sides, and then beeps and alarms will go off, like a frigging computer game. That's the point. It's not meant to overrule a referee's decision. We're led to believe it's meant to assist the referee, in making the correct decision, not overrule him. And when you're dangerously close to VAR refereeing the game, which Brendan Rodgers was saying afterwards, Celtic have requested the audio and have previously voiced their concerns to the SFA. I wonder if they'll get the audio, just like another team in Glasgow got the audio for their VAR decisions. VAR needs to be opened up, and it has to be an open mic situation at football, a bit like rugby. You need to be, the fans deserve to know the TV audience, to make it a TV spectacle. And this is what, if VAR's meant to be helping improving the game, which is not, it's slowing the game down, and it's making the game look even worse in Scotland. And the time that it's taken for VAR decisions to be made is absolutely terrible up here. When you look at other countries, or look at Spain, it's done in seconds. VAR decisions are sometimes done in seconds, but then sometimes they get it wrong here as well. But in Scotland in general, it seems to take longer than an eternity, which adds an enormous amount of minutes. I hardly see games going to 100 minutes anywhere else, which is unbelievable in this day and age. You think with the technology there, it would be there to bring the game further forward and advance the game and make it better. People have no idea. When you look at Don Robertson's yellow card for Yang, he thought it was okay. and it was one. It was sort of, yeah, it's a yellow card. The referee dealt with it. Game on, move on. There's nothing clear and obvious that was an error. Given that yellow card, you can make the case and say that yes, he was endangering the opponent, but should have VAR have stepped in? Should have VAR have stepped in? It wasn't a goal scoring opportunity. It wasn't a penalty. It wasn't in the box. It wasn't around the area that VAR is meant to be called for. And so we're now at the situation where if anything happens around the pitch, and there's been incidents that have happened around the pitch during this season where VAR didn't get involved. There's been off the ball incidents where VAR decided not to get involved. And you can see where we're going with this here is the people that are running VAR that are now getting questioned, and they're against being questioned against their authority. And that's what it comes down to, their authoritarian run on football. Anyway, yesterday was a magnificent date in the history of Celtic. The 4th of March is always a date that will go down in history by a band of merry Celtic supporters that started a movement called Save Our Celts a long time ago. And then the Celts for Change also. Back in March 1994, the one and only Fergus McCann took control of Celtic. Well, he didn't take control of Celtic at that time. He basically paid the £5 million to the bank to make sure that the debt was paid. The debt was paid. And when you look at it exactly 30 years later, Fergus McCann saved Celtic and the club from allegedly going out of business. But they never really were. There was no chance of them going out of business. When I've spoke to Michael Kelly on that numerous occasions. And the fact that he got his £180,000 off of Fergus McCann 30 years ago, and he was grateful for that. Shares that were handed down to him through his family. Having saved Celtic and completed the takeover by so many supporters at the time, Fergus set out about transforming the club. Celtic put a statement yesterday and says the ever-increasing trophy list since then started in 1995. 1995, and I can remember that day well. I was in Ibiza for that summer. Yes, I was just a lad of early 20s in 1995, spending the summer, decided to go on the 31st of March over to Ibiza and spend the whole summer in Ibiza. I can remember watching the Scottish Cup final in a pub in Ibiza, and it was absolutely fantastic. And when we won the Scottish Cup then, I fell down onto my knees and looked up into the air in relief that we'd won the Scottish Cup that year under Tommy Burns. It was evidence of Celtic's status at the time, where we came from so far behind the cheating old Rangers. Fergus McCann had a 5-year plan. He didn't lie about it. And this is what I liked about Fergus. He said that he'd come in, he'd build us a fantastic stadium, he'd get us winning trophies again, and then he would sell his shares. I wish we would have a 5-year plan just now, because it doesn't seem that that continuity that Fergus had of planning, it seems to be lost in modern day football. Yes, you can plan for a season, you can plan, but Celtic need to be planning on a 3 and a 5 year period, so that we know the type of transfers and we know what to expect and how to try and achieve some results in Europe. Since then, Celtic have won 18 titles, 12 Scottish Cups, 12 League Cups, and 6 trebles. 6 trebles. Yes, we've won 6 trebles, and most of them came in obviously the last 10-year period. When you think back, it's hard as anything. It's hard to win trebles. Celtic fans think that it's easy to go on and do that. Brendan Rodgers made it look easy when he came to Celtic, when we started winning trebles. Ange Postecoglou won a treble, made it look easy. But you have to beat what's in front of you. You have to beat what's in front of you. And the club this week, Celtic this week, will pay tribute to the one and only Mr. Fergus McCann. And at this point, I should really get the bonnet on, shouldn't I? I should really get the bonnet on and pay tribute to Fergus McCann. The man that saved Celtic. Celtic will play a special tribute video to the one and only Fergus McCann at the weekend. And I'm going to end the video at this point, because I think it's important to remind ourselves how far we've came over the years at Celtic, how far we've progressed. The fact that we've done so much and so much good, but the fans want more. We all want more. We all want the best for Celtic, and we sometimes feel that this board and this PLC is not pushing the way that Fergus McCann would have pushed. Definitely not pushed the way that Fergus McCann would have pushed, and sometimes they've stepped back far too often, this board, and they've seen periods of managed decline. Yes, managed decline at Celtic, where they've not put the foot down where they could have. and not being as brave in the transfer market. Taking words from the one and only Brendan Rodgers from the last transfer window. So on that note, have a fantastic day, Celtic fans all around the world. And to the Rangers fans, we know you're watching. You always do.